I think I always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good Evans, he's done it again. Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, and it's back. This is it. This is the first preview show of the season. Things get underway on Saturday. Real football is back, and for the first time in 2 and a bit years, we'll maybe going into a game thinking we've got a chance of winning, which is makes a nice change. We might not win. I'm not saying we're guaranteed to win. I'm just saying there's a bit of a positive vibe about us for once. To go through our predictions ahead of the season, the game, and whatever else, Mick is back. How are we, Mick?
I'm all right. I'm all
Just
right.
all right?
Yeah.
Have I started off on too high level for you?
Yeah, I'm setting bar pretty low tonight, and we'll see if I can hit it.
Okay, fair enough. Danny, join me up here on the Positive Vibe Highway for the 2025 season.
Oh, I am ready to be back for the football therapy sessions, lads. Whether it's positives, negatives, grumbles, praises, whatever, I'm ready for the new season. And I've already said to a couple people at work, because I'm working on Saturday, Rotherham's game is going on the big telly, and I will not hear otherwise.
I'll go down well and done with that, mate.
What could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
YouTube user is with us, as is Dave Lawton, Kelly Bob, Cheryl Stone, Michael Connell says, good evening to you all, one and all. It's nearly start of the season. Noel Jordan says, evening, lads. Chris Tether's with us. The Millers 66 says, evening, everybody. Hope we're all ready for the roller coaster season, which hopefully leads to promotion. Yeah. I don't know why, Mick, but this is kind of my Christmas Eve, this. The start of the season, it makes me feel like a kid again, because the possibilities are basically endless. We could have an amazing season. We could have all these great things. I'm aware it could also be garbage, but I don't know. It just gives me that vibe of being like 8-year-old again and the excitement of it all. No?
Yeah. Oh, I'm feeling it, mate. Yeah.
I'm genuinely excited.
It's August, isn't it? It's August. Up and down the country, people will be thinking it's Thursday night. There's a game tomorrow night, and then we're on Saturday. And we've got it this season. We've nailed it. It's all us. It's all us, because we do it every year. I suppose the only good thing about Sky changing kickoffs is that not everybody will be disappointed at exactly the same time on Saturday. It's spread it out throughout the day or over weekend even. Yeah, I mean it is. It is good. It's nice. It's nice. I've this to look forward to. It's nice to have some football to look forward to after what's been a pretty barren summer, really, with the exception of Euros. That was pretty barren as well, weren't it?
It were, yeah. Yeah, it were. Yeah, Danny, I think the thing is, Mick's right. Nothing's gone wrong yet in terms of Rotherham United. It's all everything right now is just a possibility. And when in life, you always think of good possibilities generally, and that's where we are. Is that where you are as well, or you're not as excited?
I'm just excited for football being back. Really, I mean, we've had the excitement of 13 new signings over the summer so far.
Yeah.
So we've had that bit of excitement. We've had the the candid nature of Steve Evans to talk a lot without actually saying anything, but to still raise hopes for the season. And I'm just looking forward to seeing it on the football pitch and seeing how we apply it, and whether or not we are going to compete in this league again, because we've got 46 games to prove where we are this season, and on Saturday it's the first of those games, and I just can't wait to get started. To be fair, I can't wait to see what unit Steve Evans has built and whether or not it is good enough for the top 6 or whatever of this division. Because if it is, happy days. If not, then we're all going to have a lovely moan over the course of the season again, aren't we?
I think even if we get promoted, we will find something to moan about throughout the season.
100%.
Yeah. Walt.
I was just the man in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah. In the comments with Walter Hope Valley Railway enthusiast, which is a good name, he asked, "Where's Hal gone?" I assume Walter was watching the Just Your Football podcast, which we streamed through our channel earlier with the White Rose Rivals. That will be on every week as well at 6 o'clock. So Thursday evening, you've got double New York talk. You've got one of us, which will be on the Just Your on the White Rose Rivals, and then us at 8 o'clock. And I do enjoy the White Rose Rivals. It's not easy to say White Rose Rivals. But we have a good laugh on that one. So if you haven't checked that one out, do check that out next time. I know people that have watched it have enjoyed it, so do check that out next week. Mick, what are you expecting in terms of on the field? We've done sort of big picture predictions with all that. Down to sort of not the technical, but more specific. What are you expecting from Rotherham United in general in terms of style and the philosophy, or what are you expecting?
Do you know? I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to. I don't know what to expect. I mean, I'd like to see us playing the way we played against Cardiff in that last game of the season, which we were on front foot, and Evans' teams play on the front foot in the main. So we are. I guess we will see some of that. It's what I think. Probably what I don't know about is what quality we're going to have. It all feels very much, because we've had to jettison so many players, or we have jettisoned so many players. It literally is starting afresh almost. And so to come up with any sort of prediction or any idea as to what sort of style of football we can expect, it is very, very difficult, other than the fact that I think we will be reverting back to what we had under Paul Warne to a degree, and that's getting the ball in the box, which is what we've all been screaming for the last season, the full season last year. So if we get a bit of that, then we've got some goal scorers in the team. So at least it should give us some excitement. Depends, but obviously on many things, doesn't it? But what we're going to expect, I ain't got a clue, mate.
No. Well, when a manager comes in, Danny, and a well-known manager, even if he'd never managed Rotherham United before, we've all seen a Steve Evans team before. You sort of think, I know what to expect because X, Y, and Z. But this team doesn't. The players themselves don't necessarily feel like a Steve Evans team necessarily. There's not a massive amount of pace in there. There is pace, but there's not a massive amount of pace in there. There's not a massive amount of wide players who can get the ball in the box on a consistent basis. It seems a different setup or squad than I was probably expecting from Steve Evans.
Yeah, I think so. I think it seems weirdly more physical than anything, which, Steve Evans' team is quite stereotypically pacey out wide, quite physical in the middle and at the back, and they sort of grind out results against you. But with this team, we sort of have the strength, and we have the goal scoring, capability on paper anyway, and we have the capability. I'm saying on paper because it's not been put into practice fully yet. And then we have the capability at the back to keep the goals out. But we don't really have the pace out wide. I mean, I know we've got Cohen Bramall who can beat Usain Bolt in a race on his day. I'm sure of it. But we know he's not the best crosser of the ball. I'm sure Jack Holmes is really quick, but very raw and untested at this level. And we sort of have the pace up front as well. Like Nombe's got pace, Hungbo's got pace, Asong's got a bit of pace to him, but they're not wide players, and they're more through the middle players. So I don't know whether Steve Evans has altered his ethos. Rather than getting it wide, we're sort of playing through the middle a little bit, like we see Man City do almost, where they get it out wide, then cut inside. I don't know whether that's how we'll play against Exeter. I'm not sure. But that's one of the reasons I'm excited. I'm excited to see how we apply it this season and how Steve Evans gets the tune out of the players, or whether or not he does get the tune out of the players with playing the way he wants to play. I do think it's going to most likely be a 4-3-3, maybe a 4-3-1-2 to put it more out there. And yeah, it's just going to be very, very interesting to see what it's like without the pace out wide, because we seem to score the majority of our goals in pre-season by getting it wide, bringing the ball in, and then getting it into the box. But then we looked really weak on set pieces and dealing with them.
Yeah, we did.
So it is like work the song out from that, basically. So yeah, that's why I'm excited for the season, because it's like, how will we solve the puzzle? How will we get it out? There are so many unanswered questions going into this season, which I think has built the excitement up. Because sort of at the start of last season, we sort of knew the direction Matt Taylor was taking it in, and it ultimately failed. So, but this season we don't quite have it all worked out with where Steve Evans is taking us, other than we're aiming for promotion.
Yeah.
We've got the start of the story with pre-season. We've got what hopefully is the end. We haven't got the middle. So it's like, where's it going?
I think that's the first time ever that Steve Evans has been compared to Manchester City, or we've been talked about in the same conversation as where Manchester City play. So that's a good effort, that Danny. I like that. Well done.
Well, if he can name drop, so can I.
Yeah, that's true. I was about to say, but yeah, Steve Evans actually knows them. That might not be true, actually.
Well, let me get Pep up on my phone. Hang on, no.
Yeah. It's part of it. Shelley mentioned the comment here, Mick, that this is one of the first times on the opening game. I haven't got a clue. Starting 11, it makes a change to have lots of depth. I think we normally go into a season having a good idea, normally. Even when we've had loads and loads of signings, you've got a good idea of setup and things such as that. But pre-season's been weird. I feel like we've not seen them. I must have had 2 or 3 behind closed door games that we've not been sort of privy to. The games we have seen have not actually been properly reflective of what we assume, but they're not reflective. Do you think that's fair, that this is an unusual way as fans to go into the opening day, that we haven't really got a clue?
Yeah, I think it is, definitely. I mean, we've played Sheffield United, and everybody else has been equivalent to dog and duck, haven't they? We've played nobody of any quality. Off the top of my head, even in the behind closed doors game, we had to play that shout from down the road. So we played nobody of any quality. I'll get that in. It is difficult. It is difficult to tell. But pre-season's crap anyway. Pre-season, no matter what happens, is never. In my experience, it's very, very, very rarely any sort of indication as to what's going to happen on day one, let alone on match day 12, 14, 36. You know what I mean? It tends to have no bearing. So, it is difficult to work out who's going to even start anywhere.
Yeah, even keeper.
Yeah. You can't even start. You can't even start at the back. Clarke-Harris is obviously going to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose work back from there. But I do hope that we're not going to have to go through that rigmarole at some stage during this podcast where we're trying to pick a starting 11, because
I don't think there's any point.
I think it's just pointless, isn't it? Absolutely pointless.
Yeah. We'll come with the Clarke-Harris in a minute. Shelley says the middle 2 or 3, especially, there's a lot of choice. I think that's the clue in formation, or how we're going to set up, Danny, is that you can't not play 3 central midfielders. With the amount of players we've got, I think that's a shoo-in. So then, as me trying to work out in my head, which would, again, there's not much point going through, that's how I work around it. It might be 3 at the back with 3 in the middle, and then wide men 2 up top. Could be 4-3-3, as you mentioned. It could be a number of things, but I would be very surprised if we don't start with 3 central midfielders.
Yeah, me too. Maybe not 3 midfielders in the traditional sense of, the 3 just in a flat 3 across the middle. Maybe in the sense of there's going to be 1 CDM and then the 2 slightly further in front. Because that CDM role seems to be, maybe Tahi, a Doffin, Kelly. They seem to be all ready to go in that position, and then the 2 that are further in front, there's Rathbone, who seems to be making positive noises that he's going to stay. Fingers crossed, touch wood, whatever. You could even play Kelly there potentially. McDonald's good there. as a slightly more advanced midfielder. So we have options for those three in midfield, and maybe that's why we're a bit midfield heavy, because we're going to be rotating it quite a lot. And like you mentioned, maybe it's not going to be a rigid 4-3-3. Maybe it'll evolve as the games evolve. You know, we sort of tweak things a little bit and work it out that way, which again isn't typical of Steve Evans. You know, he's not really been a tactical tweaker, shall we say, in the past, but we're so heavily laden in midfield and up front, it seems to be shaping up that way. It seems to be there's going to be a very solid back line of, you know, Raggett, Humphreys, Rafferty, James. Bramall, etc., etc. But then in midfield, there's so much choice. I mean, we're not going to mention Sean McWilliams, who's potentially going to come in as well. So there's just so much choice there, and, you know, potentially as more winger-based attackers as well. That Mick's mentioned already, it's going to be a right headache picking a starting 11. So I think we're going to bin that off for this season and just go whatever happens. And all I'll say for everybody, if you're on FanHub, your stats are going to be ruined this season, because if anyone gets 11 out of 11, you deserve a medal.
That's something to start with. If anybody gets 11 out of 11 first game of the season, I'll be amazed. So for first time around for Steve Evans, Mick, and I'm maybe looking back at this with the tin glass I've got now, it took him a while to work everything out then. And to be fair, he only worked it out in about March. And then we went on that amazement. We had such good players. We were always in the conversation promotion. But the system and how we played was wrong. And then he got it right, got us promoted. The same system stayed in League One, which is why we got promoted in League One, and it worked to an extent in the Championship. So do you think it's going to be kind of the same thing? He's going to have to throw a few bits at the wall and kind of see what sticks? Or do you think, I mean, we don't know, but do you think he's got a good idea?
I'm sure he will have, you know, and far be it from me to praise Steve Evans, but, you know, he's a far more experienced manager now than he was when he came to us first time around. You know, he's been around the block 3 or 4 times since then. So you know, he will know his onions in that respect. And he'll know what he wants, and he'll know what he expects from his team, and he'll make it abundantly clear, I'm sure, what he expects from them. So in that respect, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Trying to second guess exactly what it is that he wants from an outsider's point of view is another matter entirely, isn't it? So obviously, come 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock on Saturday night, we'll have an idea as to what he's trying to do, and whether or not he's been successful in that first game. So, I think he'll know. He'll know exactly what his plans are. If he doesn't, then he's in the wrong job, isn't he? So,
well, yeah,
you know,
yeah. Tom K says the problem is that Hungbo has been so good on the left, you can't really move him from there. That makes it harder to play 3 in the centre. Chris said you can play 3-5-2 with Holmes and Hungbo, but again, that creates its own problems, because it was the same problem as playing Chio back there. You know, when I want to play Chio as a wing back, I'm sure he could do a job at a wing back at League One level, because he's got all the attributes, Danny. But when you play like Hungbo, just go away, just get up there, cause some problems.
It makes my head hurt. It really does. I mean, we've said Hungbo was like the second coming of Chio in a certain sense, but if Evans is going to play the 5 across the middle, you know, the 3 centre mids and then the wing backs, deep wingers, whatever, then it's sort of creating the same problem that Chio had in his first season as well, which was that he was getting forward, but his set position was just too deep. And he played a lot better when we did play him further forward. So it's just such an head scratcher. I mean, personally, I know Evans rates Holmes very highly. But personally, to throw him into a starting berth in the first game of the League One season, having only played Southern Premier Central Division, I think it is, that he was in, that would be a huge ask for the lads. I'd probably potentially start him in the game on Tuesday, you know, in the Cup, just to let him get his bearings a little bit. So I think it's going to be Hungbo, potentially Clarke-Harris up top, in the middle, and oh god, anything. Yeah, anything. I think the one set is that Clarke-Harris is going to be up top and Dawson's going to be in goal. I'd say they're your 2 at the minute. Anything else in the middle of the park is take your pick. Basically,
Yeah.
maybe Humphreys and Raggett at centre back, and then somebody else potentially. Whether it's James playing left side as centre back, or maybe even McCart just to throw a wild card in there. But I think Clarke-Harris up top on his own. If we decide to play the two, maybe Nombe is the 10, potentially in behind him slightly. I don't think they'll be next to each other. It'll be staggered between the two of them.
Yeah.
But it's just, it makes my brain hurt. I mean, I've said to you guys on private chat, one thing's making my brain hurt. There's another thing that I've not said. And now we're talking about formations. If my head doesn't explode by the end of this podcast, I'll be very surprised.
If you're going, Harry saying, wouldn't surprise me if we don't go unchanged all season. Possibly. Chris Nichols thinks it'll take us a dozen or so games to get in our stride. Michael Connell saying Reece James definitely should be starting, which I probably agree with that, to be honest with you. Shelley saying even at centre half, we've got lots of choice. Having a few seasons, I think we've got the same amount of choices, Mick. I just think the difference is that the fit. I mean, this is unheard of. We've got literally a fully, other than Andre Green, we've got a fully fit squad. Touch the wood. But this is bordering on miracle territory for us.
Well, isn't it? Because I think this time last year we had a fully fit squad, and then 2 weeks later they were all crocked.
Well, they were injured before the season started.
Possibly, yeah. There may have been a couple injured before, but whatever. But that was because, as everybody pointed out at the time, that we bought a load of 30-odd-year-olds, which just as well we hadn't. Oh, right, yeah. Wait, maybe we have. Let's wait and see come October what that treatment table's like, because pretty much we're in a similar situation in terms of the ages of players that we bought. Obviously, it's a different style of football in League One, arguably more physical than it is in Championship. So yeah, well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see on that score. Yeah.
Let's go to a couple of players that you're kind of looking forward to see, Danny. Is there anybody that kind of we all know the Jack Holmes story? I think we're all interested to see him. Is there any other of the new signings that you kind of really excited to? Not necessarily because you know they're good, but you're kind of interested to see how good they are.
I'm interested to see where Kelly and McDonald fit into it all, because I think McDonald has been a very good squad player so far in pre-season. So I want to see how he's utilised, whether it is in the middle or right back or, just wherever Evans tells him to play, basically.
When you say McDonald, have we got a player called McDonald? We have.
Yeah, Alex McDonald. And then with Liam Kelly as well, because, he's done so well with Coventry. Will he apply it towards, or will he sort of become, almost like a Sean Morrison sort of character? So they're the two that I'm interested to see, because they're sort of the ones that go against the whole rhetoric of, bringing down the average age of the squads. They're the two that really outlie with that. And like I say, with Jack Holmes, I really hope the lad does well. I just don't want us to rush into it and effectively scare him off, And I'll probably say Clarke-Harris as well. I think out of everybody, he's the one that's expected to do the best out of any of the new signings, because he's been there and done it. But I hope he lives up to it. I hope we don't set this thing on his back of, yes, we want you to be the top goal scorer again in League One, and then he just gets 5 goals. I'd hate for that to happen, but that's why I'm looking forward to seeing how he does, and if he is able to handle that pressure of coming in as a ruthless goal scorer in League One, but also as our new club captain, and just seeing how he handles it all. But in terms of players already in the squad that I'm looking forward to see, it has to be Sam Nombe, because the scene is sort of set for him to do well as well. He were another one. We sort of came in with the pressure of being our first £1 million player, and if I'm being honest, I think it did get to him a little bit. There was a lot of pressure there. Whereas now, because he's been here a year, and last year the bar was set pretty low by himself, even though he did score a few worldies as well. I think this season, with him being so good for Exeter the last time in League One, it's sort of set for him to get that whole stress monkey back off his back and really show us what he's all about. and probably Sam Dawson as well, just to fluff up the new signings as well, because I've heard great things from Jed when he was at Exeter. Chef Wednesday seemed to love him as well. And Jed says he's a very good shot stopper of a goalkeeper. So he sounds like he's in a similar neck of the woods to Victor. Which, if that's the case, then we've done very well, and I'm very excited to see what Dawson's all about.
Don't be comparing to Victor. This is the worst thing you can do.
No. I'm not comparing him to Victor. I'm saying he's in the same area as Victor.
In there.
Yeah, kind of.
We'll see. Harry says he's looking forward to see Joe Powell. I'm interested to see Joe Powell.
There's loads of people interested in seeing Joe Powell.
Yeah, that's cool. Mixed top of the list. Mike Connell says, what I would like to see is Nombe. Let's see his mindset from last season to now. Josh Caswell, same sort of thing for me. Even though he isn't new, I can't wait to see Nombe. He looked incredible in pre-season, has to succeed this year. Neil Liversidge, can't wait for the new single from LPMC to come out tonight. There we go.
Hey.
It's Lee paid Neil, do we think? No. That is out now. We've got the banners for Lee. So that
in the morning.
Oh, you've already got Mary's out in the morning.
Yes.
To do
pre-save it now and
pre-save it now. Yeah. Richard Powell and Hungro for me. Richard's Nell for me. Those are the two I'm excited to see. Hungro, I'm excited. Powell, I'm intrigued. Make any others that kind of shout out to you that not just interested, just see what they've got.
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you because I don't want them to play badly.
Okay.
I don't want to put dampers on it. Hungbo looks really promising to me. It looks like a really promising player and probably too good for this level, arguably. So it's a bit of a surprise that we've managed to find a player of that quality. I love to watch Cam Humphreys play. I just love it. It's just like watching, like I said it before, like watching a Rolls Royce play football. It's a beautiful thing to see. But there's a few Josh Cresswell's there put in the comments there about Chris Tahi. He's got a point to prove. I think Tahi he is a quality player. There's no doubt about it, and I think he could shine as well. So, and with the exception of Humbo, there's two players that were here last season. And thought for various reasons didn't fulfil the potential, both mainly through injury. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting because you know as well as I do, and it's the same every season. And this is good nothing to do with the manager. You get a new set of players in, whether it be 4 or 5 or 10 or 15, I don't know however many we've got, and usually there's a couple of duds in there, aren't there?
Yeah,
that is just how it is. With Evans previously, there were a lot more than a couple. Hopefully, he's learned his lesson from that, and arguably what he did at Stevenage and everything else, it would appear that he managed to bring in the right people. I just don't know what his turnover were like, but we'll find that out in the coming weeks and months, won't we?
Yeah, I agree. Harry's saying, just remember, we all thought Cafu would do really well. Look, that turned out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to go back over last season, but I'm not convinced that was entirely down to Cafu.
Okay. Has he gone anywhere, do we know?
No idea.
No idea.
Cool. Tom K saying Nombe will shine when he isn't feeding on scraps, game in, game out. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. Right, Modest Penguin, moving on to something slightly different. Modest Penguin says, just me was surprised Clarke-Harris as being captain expected Kelly. Yeah, this was announced exclusively on Sky Sports News this morning, Danny. Sky Sports went around every club over the last 2 days to build the excitement. They should have just got me doing that intro for 4 games, and then everyone would have been excited about it. But yeah, we kind of knew this because we've done the preseason games. We kind of thought this, so I assume you're not surprised.
I am, but I'm not at the same time. I mean, like you say, I'm not surprised because we saw him as captain in pre-season, so it was a bit of an eyebrow raiser with that. But I am surprised because the scene. I mean, it mentioned it on Sky Sports. There are a lot of leaders and effectively captains in the dressing room anyway. But it's sort of just fallen to Clarke-Harris, like whether or not it's Evans picking favourites, I don't know. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I thought it might have been Kelly or a player who's been at the club a bit longer, like Rathbone potentially, because he's been there since, was it 2022 or 21 when Rathbone was signed?
21?
Yeah.
21, 22 he signed.
Yeah, so I would have thought it would have been someone who has been at the club longer and sort of understands the ethos more of a recent history anyway, without gaps in the career between playing for us before and now. But at the same time, like they mentioned, Clarke-Harris has been a captain before, and I think was he Peterborough's captain for a little bit?
Certainly was, yeah. I don't know if he was officially captain, but he certainly wore the armband.
Yeah, so maybe that's where he sort of got the ability to be a captain from, and he might be the sort of person who leads from the front and by example. But I've never seen him as a captain personally, so I don't know what to expect from it, which again feeds into the excitement for this season because it's another thing to find out and learn what it's all about. But the one thing that did make me smile was, of course, it was announced live on Sky Sports. The showman that is Steve Evans, it's like, oh, by the way, here's our new captain, and just walks out of the tunnel. It's like, of course he has. Steve Evans is just cinema, and that was pure cinema. Here's our new captain, and it's Johnson Clarke-Harris. So yeah, hopefully Sky take note of that, and maybe Steve Evans will be doing more interviews as well, just because he can be clipped quite easily, I think, with some of the stuff that he says and does.
If you haven't seen it, I recommend we'll go back and watch the interview with Steve Evans and Tony Stewart, because at the very end, the presenter's wrapping up, and I think he's a word away from calling Steve Evans fat, because he said about Johnson Clarke-Harris being a big guy, and Tony Stewart's got a big personality, and he turned to Steve Evans and just got, for a brief second, got stuck. Because he was clearly thinking the word big, but he didn't want to say it, so he called him a big personality. I think he got stuck in his own words for a minute.
That is the most journalist sounding save I've ever heard. Big player, big pockets, big personality.
Yeah, personality as well as the person I've just talked about. But yeah, we'll see. I remember. Let me chuckle. Shelley says, is it to maybe keep Johnson Clarke-Harris hungry and interested? Has got a bit of tendency to. Mike Nelson, do you think it was how he landed Johnson Clarke-Harris making captain? Do you think it's either one of those, Mick, or do you think it's just he can lead from the front?
I tend to agree with Shelley, because that's basically, in a nutshell, exactly what I was about to say. You look at Johnson Clarke-Harris, and he is a unit, that lad. He is a unit, and he's aggressive as a player. Wow. Two things that are really, really useful to you. If he was in the game all the time, he would score a lot more goals than he already has done. When he was with us previously, and I accept fully that he's had it's a long time ago, and he has progressed massively as a player, and I'm sure as a person and everything else. So he may not be the same as before, but he did have a tendency to sort of drift out of games. You can't do that as captain. You've got to be there. You've got to be front and centre. And I wonder whether this is, as Shelley suggested there, is this an Evans attempt to get him more involved in the game? Maybe does he recognise, or Paul Rayner recognise the fact that Clarke-Harris does tend to do this? Let's see, if we make him captain, he might be more involved. I don't know. I mean, if I had the attributes that he had, I'd be everywhere. I'd be all over the pitch. I'd be into everything. Because he will cause so much trouble, so many more problems. So it remains to be seen how he performs, and whether he's up to that role. But again, as well, given his position on the pitch, it's not the easiest place to captain a side from, much like goalkeeper. So there's got to be an element of leading by example. It has to be. So maybe that's Evans's sort of way of kicking him up the backside a bit and saying, get yourself involved in games more. I don't know. I mean, that again, like I say, I'm speaking here purely from what I know of Johnson Clarke-Harris when he was with us last time, which is a long time ago. Things have changed massively, obviously. So, but he's certainly got the attitude for it. He's a confident lad, confident in himself. He's confident in his ability. He's physical, he's aggressive, and he's in your face. He is a very much an in-your-face kind of guy. So let's see whether he's mature enough now to take on that responsibility and stay in games.
Yeah, Jerry saying he thinks he did a good job at Peterborough as captain. He did, but when you get to the crunch moments, he was part of that Peterborough team that kept bottling everything. And that sounds like I'm being harsh. And Peterborough fans watching, I'm not trying to be harsh, but you look at the situation Peterborough are in, and Clarke-Harris was front and centre of all those moments of failure. The Wednesday one being the Wednesday playoff semi-final, he had a chance to win the game later on and fluffed his chance. So I certainly have reservations. I have reservations about it, but don't matter what I think. Does it? If it works, it works. It does create more questions though, Danny, because if you captain, we saw Harry Kane in the summer. If you captain, you're going to play. If you're fit, you're going to play the game. But if he plays, you can't play Jordan Hugill. For me, there's no mobility there. So then that brings into a question: right, what's going to happen here? Because if you are going to play two strikers, it's got to be Nombe or Green if it's fit. Clarke-Harris and Hugill just screams a bit of a disaster to me.
Yeah, it sort of screams rotation, like quite a lot of rotation. Yeah. And like you say, you can't play the two of them in a front two because they will just get in each other's way. And you can't play one slightly off behind or in front of the other because, again, they'll want to be in that, last man centre forward position. And again, they'll get in each other's way. You need two different types of players up front together. And I mean, we sort of said this last season when Hugill and Eves were on the pitch. They sort of got in each other's way, especially in the 6-yard box. And I think Evans sort of sees that more than anything because we've not seen Clarke-Harris and Hugill together on the pitch. We sort of saw flashes of it, but never a definitive plan to play like that.
I think they played 45 minutes against Sheffield United. I think that's it, though.
Yeah, and maybe that sold it. Maybe that's the reason why we've not seen it a lot. But it definitely strikes me that Clarke-Harris and Hugill will be interchanging with each other rather than playing with each other. I think if one of them's having a bad game, they'll bring the other one on because they both sort of strike me as if they start on the bench, that's their drive to do well in the game. And yeah, so it just strikes me as rotation. I think Nombe is going to be just in behind either or of them, with probably the preference being Clarke-Harris as designated club captain. But I will be very surprised to see them next to each other in a front two this season.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Hugill said he wanted to stay, whether or not it's because it's job security and that's why he's took the pay cut because he's still employed. But yeah, again, it's another head scratcher. What do you do with them? Because they're effectively two players in the same position again. But Hugill's expected to do well in League One because of the calibre of clubs he's played for in the past. And Clarke-Harris is expected to do well in League One because of how many goals he's scored. But they don't work together. So it's either one or the other. I'd hate to be in Steve Evans' mind when he's picking the team because he must have like red string everywhere between different positions and trying to work it out. I mean, it's making my head hurt just thinking about it now. But yeah, just in my opinion, you can't play them together because, again, they'll get in each other's way and, Hugill will end up falling over Clarke-Harris and think it's a free kick.
He might win one in League One.
You never know.
Mick, you were shaking your head to start with, are you not?
Yeah, I don't know as I necessarily agree with what Danny said there. There's no reason you can't play two. I mean, you look at the goal scoring experience between the two of them. It's enormous. It's massive. The goals that they scored over their careers. All we're asking them to do is play in the same team. It should be a too big an ask for players of that experience. And if Evans have seen something in pre-season in training that shows that they've got a bit of an understanding between each other, I think it'd be a very, very, very solid front two, particularly if you're going to get balls in the box, because they will both score. They will both score a hatful of goals. I'm sure of that. So I don't necessarily agree. Teams in days gone by, you had two strikers, two big men up front. You had two strikers. Before the days of the low block and this, that, and the other in transition and all that nonsense all that science that people try to blind you with. It was football used to be a standard 4-4-2. Everybody played 4-4-2, two big men up front, lumped it up. That's how it played. Evans has kind of comes from that era of football, and he's not averse to playing a bit of long ball stuff. He's not averse to getting that ball in the box, which is what we want. Not so much that long ball stuff, but we want the ball in the box. If you're going to do that, then you've got, I don't know, however many years of top level experience and however many goals between them. Lord only knows in the career, But so if they do have an understanding and they're not going to start falling all over each other and going for the same balls, then I don't see a reason why you couldn't play them together. On the flip side of it, obviously, if you've got a Hugo and Eve situation where they're both going for the same, then it's a problem, isn't it? They clearly there was no chemistry between the two of them as strikers. But yeah, I mean, for me, in my memory, Clarke-Harris wasn't necessarily a focal point. He wasn't necessarily your typical number 9 like 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐭 is.
Yeah.
So you've already got a bit of a difference between the two of them there. But boy, you should have a lot of goals between those two.
I think potentially, my concern is it's quite two-dimensional. If you're playing those two up top, you kind of playing with two. I know they are slightly different players, but you're kind of just playing with two lumps up top, aren't you? That would be my concern. Look, if you come up against a team who are weak aerially, then that's perfect because they can both dominate and this, that, and the other. But if you come up against a team that are good physically, I'm sure Evans will change. Horses for courses, in it.
You're playing with two hugely experienced goal scorers.
You are, but the similar. It could make it quite easy for the opposition to manage.
Yeah, it depends what else you've got in your locker, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does, absolutely. But that's for me. That's one to watch. That's one of the selection dilemmas. One of the few selection dilemmas. That is. It's not a big one. It's just one. Right, let's do some refereeing stuff. We have Mr. Edwards, I think, is the referee. I had written my note down. It's disappeared. Paul Howard. I was close. Paul Howard is the referee. He has never refereed Rotherham before. That's it.
Yes.
I just want to bring. We got a message last night because about the referee for Victor on Saturday. I know we're not going to keep talking about Victor Johansson a lot, but
they've hit the mother load, haven't they?
Maybe the curse wasn't on Rotherham. Maybe the curse was on Victor.
Yeah,
because he's got Gavin Ward as referee and Bobby Madley as fourth official. So maybe
in his first game at Stoke. Good grief!
So good luck, Victor. Good luck on that one. So there are new directives.
Oh, whippy!
Oh, here we go.
So there's a few which I'm going to bring up. The first one is the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. That has changed in terms of a handball. So this is they refer to it as dog-so referees, just to annoy Mick. So it's just the initial denial of a goal.
I think I'm slowly turning into Mick because me and him have just had the exact same reaction to the change of the handball rule again.
Yeah. So I don't get this, but we'll go. I'm just going to read out the bottom paragraph of the directive, and we'll go from there. It's downgrading the red card in certain circumstances. So it says when an outfield player denies an opposition team a goal or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by committing a handball offence where they make themselves unjustifiably bigger, but without deliberate movement of the hand or arm to the ball, and the referee awards a penalty kick, it will be a penalty, not a red card. So if you non-deliberately stop an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, it's not a red card by handball. Does that make sense? I'm asking if you agree with it. I'm asking if it makes sense.
For me, it feeds exactly into what Mick said in the last podcast. It's asking referees to make another decision that doesn't need to happen.
It's worse than that, Danny. It's worse than that. It's asking referees to read a player's mind, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean,
He's asking referees to make another decision on the pitch, but for some reason pull a crystal ball out of the sock and go, "Oh yes, I've deduced that you didn't mean to handball it, therefore you can stay on the pitch."
Yeah.
Oh, my head hurts enough from this podcast trying to figure out a starting 11, let alone the whatever handball rule that is.
No, it doesn't say anything about a free kick. I wonder I don't know if a free kick's different. I suspect this is because you have the double jeopardy rule now, don't you? So if you make a genuine attempt for the ball, that's now yellow card, red card. I think that's the road they've tried to go down.
is this an IFAB directive or is it a PGMOL?
Off the EFL. Well, it's off the EFL website, so I assume it's PGMOL, but I don't know. Kevin Friend, I think, is in charge of the EFL stuff.
Okay. Why not? Let's make it more difficult. It's not entertaining enough for us on a Saturday afternoon, or for referees on a Saturday afternoon. They don't get enough abuse as it is. Let's make it more difficult for them. Let's get them some more abuse.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't get that. I don't get the change for that. I understand that I can the double jeopardy, but if you deny the obvious goal structure, we all know it's a red card. It's again, a simple rule.
Where do you draw the line between what is an interpretation of you meant to do it and you didn't?
Yeah.
Because if I'm throwing my body to try and block a ball, my arms could be up here, which is technically in an unnatural position.
That's not arms anymore, is it?
Yeah, but if it's my hands,
unjustifiably bigger.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm making myself. Oh.
Does it use the word unjustifiable?
A handball offence whereby they make themselves unjustifiably bigger.
What does that mean?
Without deliberate movement.
Yeah, what does
unjustified? I can justify why I'm making myself bigger to stop the ball.
Yeah, you're justified by making a block, but does the referee interpret as you making a block, or does he interpret you doing a star jump?
This sounds ridiculous, and I'm picking up on words and little pieces of information like that. It's so important. It's so important because the second one referee interprets it one way and another interprets it the other, which will happen on Saturday at some stage throughout the EFL, you've already backed yourself into a corner. Why make it more? It makes no sense to me. None at all.
No.
They're supposed to be looking after their staff. They're supposed to be making their staff's work as I'm not going to say easy because it's never going to be easy, but I can't think of another word off the top of my head. You're supposed to be helping them do their job. And what we're doing is just complicating their job more and more and more and more. Bizarre.
Yeah, they've put a list of what constitutes handball. I'm not going to go through that because I can't be bothered.
It should be as simple as it touches your hand or forearm. That's a handball. Anything up, you could design that as part of your shoulder if it's in your body. That's easy enough.
Yeah. Well, these issue Euros, and this is not an EFL problem necessarily. It's a Euros problem as well. But anyway.
Anyway, there's another new rule to talk about as well. But anyway,
yeah. Tom K says that's a lot of different things for a referee to consider within a second or two. Exactly. Yes. It's kind of an instant decision, but they've got to think of position, deliberate. Is it justifiable? Is it all these other things?
It sounds like it's a rule that depends on VAR to make the decision, but not having VAR to make the decision.
But even VAR can't give you deliberate or not.
No. The only thing VAR can say is that if it seems deliberate or not, or if you're in an unjustified position. But even then, to ask referees to make that split-second decision of he's justified in making that block and it's hit his hand, or, well, actually, I don't think he's justified in making that block. The human mind cannot make that decision in the split second it takes for the referee to go, yes, I think that's a penalty and a red card. The human mind cannot physically do that. There's at least 7 factors at play in making that decision. And, some of the best computers in the world can't make 7 decisions in the split second, let alone the human mind. It's silly.
Yeah, that's only a tiny part of the problem, though, isn't it? Only a tiny part of the problem, because us three will referee a game and each of us come up with a different decision.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how on earth
simplify?
Yeah. Don't know.
Neil got it for you. The word you look for is simplify, mate.
It is,
That's
yeah,
the-
absolutely, yeah.
There's a couple more things we need to go through, but in terms of this, Ray says, "But Rotherham are okay. We never get penalties."
That's true. So
I
we'll just have that. We get more
Phil
against
says-
us, though.
Phil wasn't. It was an EFL assistant. He's saying it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it's-
Right, there is a change to time being added on.
No, there isn't.
Oh,
Yeah, there is.
No, there isn't.
So they're still going to maintain what they did last year. So they're still going to try and add time on specifically. So you're still going to see the quite long injury time. The 7-8 minutes that we got last year.
When did they do that last year? First couple
10
of months?
games, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolute
so there is
nonsense. Mate, honestly.
the change.
I mean, I've read that part of it, and the intro to it is just embarrassing.
Is this the bit about the 30-second interval after the goal?
No, that we're going to continue to implement this rule that we didn't implement last year.
Anyway,
Or we implemented selectively.
let me get through it. So events that include a celebration, a goal or a celebration, there apparently is a change to the amount being added on. So what it sounds like is they give a free 30 seconds after a goal. So, for example, if a goal is scored and the subsequent celebrations take a minute, the officials will add 30 seconds on at the end of the half. So you kind of get 30
celebrations take a minute after the goal scored. Goodness me!
But, so it's kind of more black and white. That makes sense until you realise you don't add 30 seconds worth of injury time on. You don't see on board 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which is a question mark for me, but it is where we are.
Are we going to be rounding up minutes now? Goodness me!
It says time loss for substitutions, injuries requiring treatment, penalties, red card will also be included into that as well. Anyway,
That's a difference in what way? Because that should have always been the case.
Yeah. The rules of 30 seconds after getting injured and coming back on, that's still in place. So you still, if you get treatment, you've got 30 seconds. That's still in place.
Yeah.
Article on handball. I'm not going to go through that. Holding appears to be an emphasis for the season. Again, this will be the one that lasts about 7 or 8 games.
Yeah, this is
but they've put some wordings together, which, to be honest with you, if anybody's listening, I'm sure they're going to upset Mick and Danny. So I'm just going to read through them.
Mick, we'll mute our reactions until Matt's finished talking.
So they've kind of defined what holding is and what to look for. Well, it says what to look for. So what to look for. So they would say both arms. If they're holding with both arms, that is usually an offence, unless it's not sustained or no clear impact. Using one arm to hold is usually an offence if there's a clear impact. Shirt holding is usually an offence unless it's slight, short, or no clear impact. The word "slight" there concerns me. Holding while focusing solely on the opponent and paying no attention to challenging for the ball, that's referred to as a non-footballing action. That's an offence. But mutual holding is usually not an offence. There's a lot of the word "usually" there, which is not really what you expect when you're creating a law or changes. Usually, it is not very often used in there. But that will be something we see in the next probably 8 games or so. But we'll see. Do you have anything to add on that one?
I mean, it's just. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It usually is, except when Team X are playing or Team Y are playing, but definitely is when Team A are playing.
Yeah,
if it's against them, but obviously if they're doing it, and that's what it leaves itself open to. You know, if referee A sees it, he's going to give it. Referee B, I don't know. It usually is, but on this occasion, it's not. It just honestly, again, why not simplify it? You know, if you hold somebody in box, it's a foul. If you hold somebody outside box, it's a foul.
Yeah.
Why isn't it inside box? You know, if you pull somebody's shirt, it's a foul. If it's the corner, then you have to pull it and you have to make sure that they can't actually go anywhere. How do you know they can't go anywhere? How are we going to judge whether it has an impact or not? If Cam Humphreys pulls a striker's shirt. At what point has that had an impact? You know, because if he pulls it and lets go, the ball's already on its way across. Striker can't reach it now. Has that had an impact? Well, no, because he's not gone for the ball. But he could have done that. Yeah, how vague do you want it to be? It makes no sense, and it frustrates the life out of me, you know. And it feels like, and I feel really disappointed with this because I've got a lot of time for Howard Webb. I really have. I genuinely have, and I know he wants to do. He wants to do the right thing by refereeing, and he's passionate about it and everything else. I have got a lot of time for him. These organisations like the PGMOL, the EFL, and everybody else, and organisations in similar environment, similar sizes across all sorts of industries, the management of them seem to spend their life trying to throw their employees under the bus. And essentially, that's what they're doing with referees here. They're making their job so difficult to do on throughout the pitch all the time. You know, every time there's an incident where a referee's going to be involved, he needs to get his Bible out, to, you know, his book of rules and regulations, and thumb through it till he finds the right one, because they're so complex. And then sit down and have a chat with his linesman and fourth official. Well, what do you think? Because everything is now subjective, and it shouldn't be.
No,
shouldn't be. I know it's frustrating, you know, but if it hits your hand, it's handball. Closing title. Yes, it'd be frustrating. Yes, it'd be annoying, but it'd be easy. Everybody would understand it. Everybody would know what it is. If a player is offside, he's offside. He's offside. Forget it. It doesn't matter whether he's interfering, whether he's running away from ball, took ball, whether he's moved his foot towards it, but didn't actually touch. None of this nonsense. If he's offside, he's offside. Make it simple. You know, make the life of these people a lot more simple, and they get so much less abuse from supporters. Because football's about opinions anyway. You know, as supporters, we've all got our opinions on players and everything else. The laws of the game shouldn't be about opinion, and yet we're introducing opinion in every amendment to the rules and regulations. Everyone that we're putting more and more layers of opinion in there, and it literally is. We're throwing referees under the bus. They really are. They're throwing them to wolves. I think anyway. That's how it feels to me as a supporter. And it's
well, they are, because on Saturday afternoon, if we get given a penalty, or X get given a penalty because of holding, we'll all sit there at the time and we'll go, well, this is the new rule. That's what it's meant to be. But then 10 minutes later, when it happens again and it doesn't happen,
or referee
doesn't see it, then that's when arguments come in. That's when that's the problem, and that's the issue with simplifying in it. He's got eyes everywhere, and there's only three of them. Fourth official don't get involved, so there's only three people to make this decision, and there's so much to watch. I don't know.
It's just bizarre. It's bizarre that we go down this route every season, you know, and each season there's a little bit more complications added to it, and it's never taken away.
No,
you know, they never seem to simplify these things.
Kevin Friend did say they were kind of giving more allowance for if handballs, if the ball comes off your own body, there's a bit more of an allowance for it. If it comes off if your thigh and hits you in the hand, that's like to be given as handball. So there is a slight tweak in that as well. Although that sounds like a good change, but it might not be. Might not be. Chris Taylor says muddying the waters further, so many grey areas.
Yeah.
Tom K says we'll be getting a new rule soon. If the ball crosses the line, that usually means the goal can be given.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're in an offside position, or unless you're Patrick Bamford and you're hitting me your arm. But that's all right. That's fine. Sorry, because that's usually not a goal, but this time it were.
So it's not like they clamp down on the rules that impact the games like diving and cheating. They're just slightly.
Yeah, precisely that. You know, precisely that. You know, if you want to add a bit of opinion in there, then put it onto that bit. Put it onto whether a referee thinks a player's cheating or not.
Yeah.
You know, I know I'm very, very critical of them a lot, and I understand that, and I know people take mickey out of me for ranting and raving about them. But the job is so difficult. It's so difficult anyway.
Yeah.
It's so high pressure, particularly at the higher levels with the money that's involved in the game. And to add insult to injury, we're just complicating the job. season after season after season. There's no wonder these things disappear out of existence after 8 or 10 games because they're just too busy trying to concentrate on everything else. It's just wrong. It is wrong, and it really needs looking at. And the issue is you don't know how much of this comes down from above, from IFAB, because they're another one of these corporate organisations that feel they need to justify their existence. Well, they do, though, don't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
I just feel so. I genuinely feel so sorry for him, and I know I'll be slating him this season. I know I will, just like every other football fan up and down the country. But why make it easy for me?
Yeah.
Make it more difficult.
Yeah.
There's something to think about.
Noel Jordan says refs must shake their heads every pre-season when they come for new rules. But the thing is, referees, Bob Madler came in last year to talk about these referees have got to go in to justify these new rules to the team to explain to them.
But then 3 weeks later, Bob Madler's coming back in again and apologise.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And much as I'm still very, 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 very bitter about that game, about the decisions he made, it will run out to dry later in maybe 3 weeks later because people stopped doing it.
Yeah,
that made the mistakes he made in that game look even worse.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah. Phil says with Mick, just simplify the wording. They're so meat at the time, so it's not. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Let's go to the predictions now. What we're going to do this season is I'm going to make more of an effort of collating predictions from our regular guests, and we're going to try and create a bit of a league and see who can be good. As I'm collating that, I'm not going to.
I'll say, Matt, have we had a behind-the-scenes meeting where we've all knocked our heads together for the best part of 3 hours and decided the rules of this league and whether or not the definition of Rule 72.4b actually is worded correctly?
Well, the thing is, if you get the prediction correct, it usually means you get 3 points for that. Usually.
Unless X, Y, and Z come into play, and for example, Mick eats a banana on a Tuesday, and therefore
unjustifiably
he gets 3 points to draw anyway.
If it's unjustifiable, then that's the problem.
Right.
I don't eat never on a Tuesday, mate. No banana Tuesday. It's been a thing in my house for years.
Anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of run the league. I'm not gonna do any predictions this year because I don't want to.
Sorry, excuse me.
So the reason is I won it last year, and I thought it would be fun if we get a league together. And if I win, having organised it, I have to give myself a prize. And I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to now take charge of it. And whoever wins, I don't feel like I've kind of cheated, even though I haven't.
So Matt's basically stood down as a competitor and become the dungeon master.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I am considering whether to take 2-1 off the table because Mick always goes for 2-1. We'll see how it goes. Again,
is that justified though?
Well, as rule man, I can do what I want.
Is Mick justified in making his 2-1 prediction? And if it's unjustified, is he disqualified? I could go all night with this, by the way.
So I'll go through who provided who's not here. Tom and Ben have gone for 2-0. Kev's gone for 3-0. Joy has gone for 2-1. So Joy's still Mick's. Initially, you can all go for the same prediction if you want, although again, that may change halfway through the season if we get close. While you two are guessing and thinking, Chris Taylor says 1-1, as does Phil. Noel Jordan's 4-0. Love you, Noel. Scott Kent says 2-0, and Tom Kent says 1-0. Neil Bolton says 3-1. Harry says 2-1 will be the first away win in a long time. Kaylee Wilson also says 4-0. Love her as well. Cheryl's done 3-1, as does YouTube user. Richard says 3-0. Michael Carnell says 3-1. Gumbo's going 2-2. Brad C's going 4-1 and J Boy's going 1-1. That's all we've got in the comments for now. Mick, how adventurous are you going? Are you just going to be,
I'm going to go nah, is where I'm going. Well, no, It's not a nah, really. I'm going to go with Gumbo. I think 2-2. I'll go 2-2.
Interesting. That'd be a classic Steve Evans start of the season. 2-2-3-3. He's got Steve Evans written all over it.
Seem to remember 80-81 we drew the first 2 or 3 games. So I'll work on that basis. Not that this team is going to be anywhere close to that, but
you never know.
You never know.
Never know. Danny, what were you saying?
I'm going to go along the same route but a different road because I think it's going to be 1-1. Having spoke to Jed on the scout report, which will be
out tomorrow.
Out tomorrow on Friday. Keep an eye out. It was more of a catch up between me and Jed rather than a scouting report, truth be told. But anyway,
that's what everybody else, Danny.
Yeah. So we both sort of agreed that it has the vibe of an opening day draw. But I just think we're going to score, but also concede from a set piece. So 1-1 for me.
Did Jed give a prediction?
Yes, I think he said 0-0. I think
we may put the EFL in this league table, or all our opposition fans in there. See how it goes. See how it goes for that. But yeah, those are predictions. I'll keep log of the scores for as long as and then we can hopefully get a winner at the end of the season. A couple more. Modest Penguin says 4-2. Paula Road says 1-1. Neil Liversidge, the only one that's going for a loss. He says 1-2. Or is that 1-2 because we're away, Neil? Let me know. Lisa Ball says we're going to win 2-1. Modest Penguin says 4-2 Holmes triple assist. We'd love to see that. That'd be funny.
It's enthusiastic.
Yes. See 1-2 because we're away from home. Thank you very much. 641 days Saturday will be since our last away victory in November 2022. I'd love to know if anybody's gone that amount of days in professional football without an away win. That's got to be close to a record, if not a record. Because when you have a bad season, you come down and you tend to win. Now it's like over 2 seasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if anybody's clever enough, can you find out if that's an English professional record? It can't be far off.
If you I don't know whether you've got one in your house, but these little boxes that look a bit like tellers with a keyboard in front of them. If you type into that, you can find all sorts of stuff with your information and everything.
It's such a specific record. I can't find anything about it. So if anybody has a specific database that I can't find, it's certainly a club record anyway. It's in terms of games. So yeah, here we go again. It's back. It's back on Saturday afternoon.
It's making me head hurt.
We're saying tea time afternoon. Tea time.
Late kick-off.
It's on Sky Sports Plus. The app is now live, so if you have Sky Sports, you will now have access to the Sky Sports Plus app, which has got loads and loads of stuff on there, which I'm sure is fascinating. But if you haven't, you can go back and watch.
I'm just saying, if you're doing it through the telly, it's what used to be Sky Sports Arena. And then they've just thrown all of the red button stuff there, so you can go on Arena, press red button, and just basically pick whatever you want, and that's it.
Okay. It has the interviews. I mentioned all the interviews that they've done with all the clubs, plus the Steve Evans, Tony Stewart, and Joel Clark. That's on there as well. So if you go on there, you can see that, plus the other club stuff that they've done as well. So I'm hoping they'll do post-match stuff. You know, if you're post-match, I'm hoping that'll be kind of on demand, which you can watch it. I won't put money on it because we're League One Rotherham United, but I might do it for Championship. Might do it for Leeds and big teams like that, mightn't they? I'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
Sky's the J Boy says Sky's punishing us with a 5:30 kickoff. Yeah. Michael Connell says he's going to pub to watch it, which is nice, which should be nice. Wherever you're watching it, whether it's at home, the pub, or down at Exeter, I hope you have a lovely Saturday. And football's back. Get excited because the EFL returns. Rotherham United returns. Okay, about EFL, do we? Rotherham United returns to break our hearts on Saturday afternoon with a late defeat, probably. Boys, anything else we need to mention?
No.
Cool.
No, I don't think
we shall be back on Sunday evening. That will be a review, our first review show of the season, which will hopefully be a win. There's also a bit of a preview. We'll play Crew on Tuesday in the Carabao Cup. So I'll have a bit of a look forward to that as well. The Scout Report, as I mentioned, is out tomorrow. That's released about 11 o'clock tomorrow. I think I've scheduled it for. That's a good 20-minute chat with Danny and Jed, just telling us about Exeter, what to expect. It's first Kimmett season, so he's obviously a little bit like us, but we don't fully know. But it is still a good chat to learn about how their feelings towards Zach Jules, because it gives a bit on Zach Jules, which are interesting as well. Which is useful. He's something we haven't talked about, isn't it, Zach Jules? I don't think we've mentioned him, basically. So since we signed him, I don't think we've barely mentioned his name. He may play it tomorrow. Please make sure you have subscribed already if you haven't done on YouTube. Like the video. If you're watching now live now, make sure you've liked the video. If you're on X, watching over on X, make sure you follow us and get over and subscribe on YouTube for all the other shows, the review shows, the instant reactions, the White Rose Rivals shows that are on there. There's a few stuff that we do that's kind of just for YouTube. If you're on iTunes and Spotify, nearly an hour and 10 minutes without balls in my words at then. If you're on iTunes and Spotify, make sure you have subscribed and give us a 5-star rating, wherever it allows you to do so. It's in good numbers for the audio podcast in the last couple of weeks. So thank you for those who are returning to us with the season ahead. Yeah. Up the Millers. Let's find out what happens in the season ahead. It could be wonderful. It could be dreadful. It could be somewhere in between. We will find out over the next 10 months. 10 months? 9 months, whatever it is. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Richard says, cheers, guys. Smile, Mick. Footy's back. Come on.
Come on.
Thank you all for being with us. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everybody who's been with us. We will see you next time. And as always, and for the first time this season, up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
I think I always made the comment that once a Miller, always a Miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favor, drop me off in